rural Australia who is willing to sponsor you and you are prepared to go and stay there in that regional part of Australia, then that sort of visa will lead you to a permanent residence visa. Otherwise, if you want to go and stay in Melbourne, I'll stay in Melbourne, I'll stay in Sydney, okay, and all those things allowed. Employers are there to sponsor, and whom they can sponsor is the question. The people whose skills are listed in the so-called employer nomination listing of the skilled occupation list. Okay, I've got that listing here before me. I can show it to you. All IT occupations come within that. Okay, and this is just two lists. I'm having it here before me. This is that skilled occupation list and employer nomination scheme 1121I. This is a document, an information document running to 23 pages. This has got various occupations listed for immigration purpose. Whatever is there for immigration purpose comes here. What is the points allocated for that? What is the code allocated for that? Who is the assessing authority for that? Okay. The last column is that ENSOL, Employers Nomination Skilled Occupation List. ENSOL. Okay. So the manager and administrator is one category, the premier category. The definition is manager. So many intrinsic issues. I am a manager here does not necessarily mean you are a manager from the perspective of Australia. Manager is a very coveted occupation when it comes to general admin. We have got one person for whom we have got an assessment recently. He is from Satyam Computers, HR manager. Now, someone is having a minimum of 600 people working under him with some set qualifications and other parameters therein. That person could claim he is a manager. I have got 25 people reporting to me. There is a set definition. Manager is a manager who is holding a premier position, who has got managers working under him, and below him there are other managers or supervisors and the hierarchy and so many other criteria issues. So the organization chart should be very well defined and so many related issues. So this is a premier category. General manager, finance manager, construction manager, this manager, that one. Okay. Now as you can see, this is the listing for general skilled migration and also for employer nomination scheme. All. Yes. Plus, there are some additional occupations listed only for employer nomination scheme. Okay, so next category is called the professionals. In the professional category, you get what is called as computing professionals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 direct occupations called applications and analyst programmer, computer systems auditor, software designer, systems manager, systems programmer. No, I am not coming into any of this. Thank you very much. There is a seventh one which says computing professionals not elsewhere classified. Computing professionals not elsewhere classified means you are a computing professional, please come into our country. The desperateness is shown here, right here. And they are defined under the not elsewhere classified within another listing called migration occupation in demand list. Okay, the specialization of the computing professional, CISSP, C++, C Sharp or whatever this C Sharp, Java, J2EE, network security, firewall, internet security, Oracle, PeopleSoft, SAP, Siebel, analytical part, otherwise specializing in Siebel SQL servers. So many other specializations have been there. No, I am not coming within this also. No problem. You come under the broader definition of computing professional not elsewhere classified still. So the desperateness of the need and necessity for IT professionals is very well depicted in this listing of skilled occupation brought out by the Australian government. And this says it is a list for immigration as well as for the employer nomination scheme. So many occupations, more than 500 different occupations we are dealing with, and we have done successfully over the years. Okay, out of this huge listing of professional occupation, associate professional occupation, trade occupation, related workers and other occupations and other things, okay, an abridged list also has been prepared under the MODL. Okay, MODL is migration occupation in demand list. If someone is having the skill in accordance with this listing, this list gets reviewed every 6 months. This list means to say that the government of Australia is absolutely desperate to have this skill, which is, it means to say in literally every state of the country the skill is in short supply. So all the IT I have read out from this. So which means say IT is desperateness is there. Okay. Plus child care coordinator, chartered accountant, some doctors are there. Okay. Anesthesia, some specialization within that, architect, chemical engineer, civil engineer. Okay. So many other things, dentist, dental specialist, dermatologist, electrical engineer. So many big list of occupations are there. This one also. Some parameters are there. Okay. Now employer says in Australia, I want to nominate a person from Bangalore. I want a salesperson, sales representative. They don't allow, because sales representative, there is no desperateness for sales representative in Australia. Already there are so many people, local talent is available. Why do you want to go and get someone from India for a sales representative job or a marketing job? Why not the local talent? The government of Australia will be asking. So that system is called labor market testing. The employer concerned in Australia must advertise in the employment exchange, so-called employment exchange, what we are aware, which is very vibrant in Australia, wherein the moment you register the employer stating that he needs some skill in that, he starts getting people. Can someone close that thing, because some bees are coming from there or something. Okay. So what can we do about this one, because it's just okay, yeah, any specific question?
Since you were saying about the demand jobs in Australia, I was researching probably a couple of days back, and found that New South Wales is almost filled.
New South Wales is?
New South Wales, most of the immigrants have already been there, and the verge of it's almost over. So it's like the service says that there are people probably needed in Victoria. Okay, so what I want to ask is, similar to the Y2K problem, why can't something arise in Australia probably in this demand list?
Okay, I would say, I would put it like this, okay. The occupations listed under MODL, if you look at it quite closely, the jobs are there to be taken right in Sydney. Plenty. It's not just in Melbourne. As a matter of fact, probably it's more in Sydney when it comes to the availability of jobs. There is no denying of the fact what you have expressed also, that Sydney is overcrowded already. It's like it's a commercial capital in Australia, Sydney. It's the biggest city. Of course, Sydney is overcrowded. The government of Australia is having a policy to try and stop migrants from coming to Sydney, because Melbourne, so many industries and other things are there, and Melbourne, there is a demography imbalance. They want some ex-population in Melbourne, and that sort of population is not there as yet. Likewise, Western Australia, Perth, plenty of vacancies are there. For that matter, whatever the occupations are read out, okay, it is there. Literally in every state. There are 6 states in Australia, 2 territories, which is listed there. The 6 states, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia State, Queensland, Tasmania State, and South Australia. And 2 territories are Canberra, the Australian Capital Territory, and the Northern Territory. Okay, so literally in all of this, I can give you the evidence that these skills are required. Okay, there could be the opportunities, there are restrictions in the opportunity, but the employer is there. Who is an employer? An accredited employer who has a minimum of 10 employees appointed by him during the last 2 years. That criteria is there. Minimum 10 people on the regular payrolls he must be having. He must have evidence of good track record with the immigration department. He must have been paying the wages in accordance with the industrial relations, and he must be spending certain amount towards the training and other things. The whole equation applies to the so-called accredited employer. Anyone, everyone, I got 3 people, I want the 4th one from India, he can't. The employer's accreditation is certified by the department as a first step. Okay, I've got more details, plenty. It's a vast, it's an ocean. Okay, I can just read out about the very salient features about who is an employer and what is an employer and other details and all. But I'd rather like to take, okay, after this briefing, plenty of questions must come from you, because only then there will be nomination by the employer. Okay, the employer must submit the nomination, which is under the employer nomination scheme, the subclass 457 visa it is called. Okay, the employer in Australia wanting someone from India, okay, he must go with these 2 listings only. He cannot say, I'll go to anyone and sales representative I want, marketing person I want, okay, he will not be allowed. There is that restriction. When Australian government, right within Australia got the talent, why do you want to get someone from Bangalore? They won't allow. Okay.
So talking about work permit point of view or from a migration point of view?
Work permit I'm talking about. Okay, the employer nomination scheme as such it is called. Okay. Subclass 457. Okay. And the nomination of the employer is sufficient as a first step, and then once the nomination is approved, then you have to submit your stakes with the government of Australia as a second step. Okay, so the employer must show you evidence. Okay, it must be evidence of a genuine employer-employee relationship, a genuine employer-employee relationship. It can't be something like that. Okay, the government of Australia is, the immigration department is an integral part in the whole process. That's why, as I said, okay, when it comes to overseas job placements, immigration part is part of the whole thing. Okay, genuine employment offer should be there, be actively and lawfully operating in Australia, have a need for a paid employee, have a satisfactory record of training Australians, or in the case of a new business, must have satisfactory plans in place for future training, and be an employer of good standing with the immigration department. The position must correspond to a highly skilled occupation that appears on the list of occupations gazetted for the purpose of the ENS, which is called the employer nomination scheme. It must be a full-time and available on a permanent basis. Full-time, permanent basis employment. Be paid at least a specified minimum salary also gazetted for the purposes of employer nomination scheme. All other 500 plus occupations allowed for immigration, within that some allowed under the employer nomination scheme. Only IT is the highest paid. This is the gazette notification which I can circulate. When I am saying this is the gazette notification, this is the minimum of what an IT professional will be able to get, the bare minimum. That is only the base salary. There can't be just a base salary or a consolidated salary in Australia. This is the bare minimum basic salary you must be given per annum, of course. Okay, 57,300. Of course.
Talk about senior IT professionals, say we assume it to be 5+ years of experience.
1,67,125 Indian rupees, approximately, with a notional 35 rupees as a thing. Okay, that must be the base. 1.67. Anyone paying 1 penny less than that, the government of Australia will not allow that employment scheme. That nomination will be declined. This is what an Australian must be paid. Okay, this is minimum. Now everyone will not pay minimum. It is dependent on your skill, obviously. Okay, so that is the whole equation about it. Okay, an engineer must be paid $41,850 as a minimum. Our clients, they have got there, okay, $100,000 and other things. Okay, so that sort of thing is there. This is a gazette notification. Maybe you can just sir, you can pass it on, and then maybe people can have a look at that. Okay, and also the various benefits are there under the superannuation, this one, that one, fringe benefits, and so many things are there. As a full package must be given. Okay, part and part it is not allowed in Australia. Okay, this is that skilled occupation list, sir. Maybe you can just pass it on also for them to see. This is the migration occupation and demand list. People whose skills come within this, they will be allowed to go into the mainstream Australia program. IT professionals come under this coveted list. This is an abridged list of the skilled occupation 500 plus list what I have already given there. Okay, so IT professionals have the opportunity to either go into the mainstream Australia, the Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, or if they want they can go into the townships in and around or something like that, or where they prefer they can even go into the regional Australia or the rural Australia. Okay, so this is under the employer nomination scheme. 457 is the visa category. Okay, now apart from that 457 visa category, there are certain other categories of visa. RSMS scheme, 2 other visa categories are there. Different ground rules apply. Okay. It is a 3-stage process. Okay, see here. Okay, just completing this, the minimum salary level is commensurate with the average annual salary for all Australians. Nominations offering less than the minimum salary will not be approved. The employer nominating you, prima facie, it will not be approved if there is any, 3 months of experience. Okay, 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 differentiation in the wage standards. That's why I was telling, immigration is an integral part of the work visa when it comes to placements abroad. Okay, nominees application and other things, and nominee will be required to undergo skill assessment. Skill assessment is immigration. It is a pre-migration process, is called the skill assessment. There is a concerned authority in Australia. You got there on the left side the whole of it. That is called the skill assessment. Your skills has been suitable for migration purposes to Australia for a nominated occupation, applications, analyst programmer, ASCO code 223117, or Java specialist, C++ specialist, Oracle. You name a specialization, we have got all the specializations listed there. That is the skill assessment which will be required. Then we are going halfway through into the immigration process, even when it comes to the job placement process. Okay, understood? Now after that, a person who wants to go under the work visa must be less than 45 years of age. Above 45 years, not possible. 44 years, 364 days allowed. That is 45 years definition. Okay, and he must have certain English standard evidenced formally. There will be, as I said, a 10th standard level of examination called the IELTS, International English Language Testing System, on the lines of TOEFL if you are familiar with it. Reading, writing, speaking and listening will be the 4 modules within that. It is the basic of the basic module. Okay, academic module is there for pursuing the post-graduation study or something like that. The general training module within the IELTS. IELTS is not as higher in the parameters as compared to TOEFL. It is at a 1 level below or something like that. Okay, and these examinations are held on an average twice every month. You can take n number of tests, but each time you take it will cost about 8,000 rupees. Think yourself to be lucky that you are not required to take TOEFL, or you are not required to be taken another English competency test, which is called the occupational English test, which will cost you 30,000 rupees for each test. And those tests are held once in 3 months something, not like once in 15 days. So you take it up, immediately register, not possible. This test is conducted all over the country also, all over India, all over the world. Okay, that is the briefing about the employer nomination scheme. Plenty of other related issues are there within that. Okay, the department will also assess the visa application against the following: that the nominee is able to satisfy any mandatory licensing or registration requirement. IT professionals, no licensing or registration requirement. For that matter, there is no need for you to have a formal qualification also. So many people, they might not have any formal qualification. Maybe through NIIT certification or AppTech and other things also, they will be gaining experience over the years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, they will have the required proficiency in the thing. If you have 8 years of professional IT work experience, that itself is sufficient, no qualification, 0 allowed. That is called recognition of prior learning. That documentation, it comes to us like this. We have recently got for 2 clients, it will be there. One is a Java specialist, other one is C, C++ and C# or whatever, and that C++ client is in Sweden. This Java specialist and Oracle is, this guy is in representing Infosys at New Jersey. He is working for Eastman Kodak company. The documentation is pretty tough for that recognition of prior learning. It comes to 1.5 to 2 kgs of the paperwork. Okay, it will be pretty hectic. Okay, now that will apply even for non-BE computer science people. And we have got 100% success rate so far in that assessment. IT 100% success rate. The IT assessments are like formula. It can't fail. That's why we have been targeting on IT, and the sort of people we are targeting, there is only a small group. This sort of seminars, we are going to have at least 100 right in Bangalore alone. BE computer science, BSc computer science, diploma computer science, MCA and other related, or other related BE and so many other things, BE in the various different categories of engineering, they are going into the IT also. That is also acceptable. Okay, this is the briefing about that particular thing. And also, having said that, the exemptions are allowed for age. If you are above 45 years, so some specific exemptions are there. It has to be worked out between the employer and the person here in India. Okay, exemptions on skill also allowed. Selective, but it is a discretion of the immigration department. Risk factor is there in that, and the proficiency in English. Okay, I don't think someone going into an English speaking country will be allowed exemptions on this. Most of you as professionals will be able to pass those exams. Yes sir, you have a particular question.
How do you compare the MCA? How does the Australian immigration authorities
MCA. MCA or any qualification for that matter, there is some parameter. The National Office of Overseas Skills Recognition in Australia is the assessing authority. They have got something like country education profiles. It is very well defined. Just to give you an example of that, if you have a degree from Bangalore University, even in past class, third class or whatever, it is treated on par with a degree in Australia. However, if you have a degree from Mysore University or Karnataka University, Dharwad, and you have a past class, then it is not treated on par with a degree in Australia. It is one rank below. It will be treated as AQF, Advanced AQF Diploma. Like our Polytechnic, one step above that. It's between Polytechnic and the degree, normal degree. Okay. Now, second class, if it is there from Mysore University or Karnataka University, Dharwad, then it is allowed on and treated on par with a degree in Australia. The guideline is NUSAR CEP, we call National Office of Overseas Skills Recognition, country education profiles are there. Okay. This one is a part of the skill assessment also. Now, when it comes to the IT professionals, this is a very big advantage. What the government of Australia say is, you are having a qualification. We don't want you to be a graduate only to come here. No qualification also, as I said. If you have by chance a qualification that is one rank below, two rank below, three rank below also to an Australian degree, still you are accepted and the compliance requirements for you will be minimal compared to someone who is not having qualification at all. Okay, I think the question.
For a BE or a BTech from a premier institute in India, say, when I say premier, I say RECs and IITs. How will they be compared in the?
Okay, there is a listing for that. Okay, by and large, REC and other things or RECs are good. Number it's treated on par. RECs, IITs, certain institutes are there. All those things. Okay? It's a pretty big listing. Okay, it's the what our Association of Indian Universities. They have brought out a handbook also, which is a pretty voluminous one. Okay, equivalence of foreign degrees, something like that is there from the perspective of India. An Australian wanting to come to India, that will be the parameter. Likewise, the NUSA CEP, some guidelines. Okay, it's a pretty voluminous.
Just one small question in addition to that. BTech in some other branch and then computer experience, software experience.
6 years minimum.
6 years minimum.
Minimum 6 years professional IT work experience. 6 years. First year, this, that, and other things. Trainee, you have taken 6 months trainee, acceptable. Programmer, okay, before becoming a programmer, 6 months trainee or 1 year trainee. Trainee is allowed, okay, so long as you are doing the programmer job or doing certain professional job, okay. Rather, if you are just taken as a casual here and there or something like that, okay, that's not a professional IT position. You must be in a professional IT position.
6 years IT experience needed if you are BTech in some other branch.
Yeah, otherwise 4 years. BE Computer Science or MCA, BSc Computer Science, Diploma Computer Science, only 4 years.
How is the VTU, Visvesvaraya Technological University?
Visvesvaraya Technological University, the class and other things will be there, okay. So, only Bangalore University in the Karnataka, which is number 1. That is all they have categorized less, and engineering degrees from the VTU, okay, it is stated on par. Engineering degree, BTech, whatever you are doing from there, okay, past class also equivalent, on par. As I said, even if it is 1 rank, 2 rank below or 3 rank below also, you do not have to worry, the case will go through under the minimal compliance, okay, so not an issue, okay. So just one more particular thing, regional sponsored migration scheme, which is for the under the employment scheme also, okay. Any employer can participate here. Any employer, there is no need for the accreditation rating of this employer. If it is in the regional Australia or rural Australia, anyone going into the country, I ask this person, where are you? He says, I am in Melbourne. That other person, I am in Melbourne. Everyone wants to go to Melbourne, Sydney, because we hear those names in the cricket match. MCG, this one, that one, and other things. Okay. So, who is going to go to the regional Australia? Plenty of vacancies are there. There are townships, plenty. Everyone wants to come to Bangalore. Who is going to go to Mysore, Hubli, Bangalore? Like that, in Australia also that imbalance has happened. Therefore, the government has come up with some other scheme which is having certain lenience. Regional sponsored migration scheme, any employer. There is no need that the employer accreditation should be very well established with the department or something like that. Okay. Here, there will be a restriction, as I said, except they can't go, they can't recruit people, the employers in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney. Around Sydney, 2 townships like our Kengari and other Bidadi like that. Okay, Newcastle and Wollongong, 2 townships are there around Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. These are all the mainstream Australia. Already they have got people enough there. plenty. They want people to go within their state to other regions, okay, so that the regional sponsored migration scheme has got certain lenient procedures, okay. Here the certification of the nomination, the employer's accreditation is first checked. There is no denying of the fact that the employer will be having a thorough scrutiny. I'll list out the guidelines for that. Then the nomination by the employer, then the nominee's application for the visa. Certification, okay. There is a need for the paid employee in the business that is actively and lawfully operating in Australia. The position is a genuine full-time vacancy. Unless the nomination is exceptional, the position nominated requires the appointment of a person who has qualifications equivalent to at least Australian diploma level. What I said, Australian diploma